part of the world where you find yourself here. And happy Monday to you. My name is Tomás Garza, and this is A Course in Miracles 365 Awakening to Love. And I'm your host, and I'm delighted to join you here today. Thank you all for tuning in. And there have been several people over the last few days tuning in from all parts of the world. So this really truly is a global audience. And I really thank you for tuning in, for all of the likes, all of the hearts, comments, which I love, by the way. So feel welcome to ask questions and comment here in the comment thread. And also all of the shares of this. There are some wonderful, wonderful programs here on Enlightened World Network. And I'm delighted to bring you this one, which is daily. So yesterday we were looking at a couple of very, very profound ideas in the workbook for students of A Course in Miracles, and that was covered in lesson 85. Now today, because it's Monday, I want to take a little bit of time and focus on getting out of our own way. So every Monday, what I'm doing now is I'm talking about a concept, a general spiritual concept, and I am, of course, relating that to the wisdom of A Course in Miracles, to the teachings of the text, the workbook, the manual, all of that. It all plays in. And tomorrow, we will continue on numerically in the workbook with lesson 86, and you'll find, if you're familiar with that, or if you've read that already, that today we're going to be talking about one of those concepts in some detail. In some detail. All right. Well, so thank you all for tuning in here. And if you're catching this on the replay, please know that I go back and I check all of the comments. So even if you've missed the live stream, please feel welcome to leave comments, leave questions if there's something that you don't understand about the day's lesson, or you have questions or comments, or if you'd like to share anything from your own spirituality, from your own walk that has to do with this lesson, feel welcome to do that. And I will be happy, absolutely happy to respond to these, because I do check that comment thread from time to time here throughout the day. So, all right, thank you all for tuning in, and let's jump into this. Spirituality in general is about a lot of things, and one of those is allowing. And as I turn my volume down right here, got the live comments. Hello. Hello, everybody that's tuning in. Thank you for joining me here. So spirituality is about getting out of our own way in a lot of ways. So what do I mean by that, and how are we in our own way? Well, part of that may seem obvious, that we're really blocking our own spiritual growth, our own awakening, with the things that we say to people, with the things that we do, with habitual patterns that we're aware of, our own triggers. Let's use politics. Why don't we? Let's use that as an example, because it's a really obvious example. And I've come back to it again because it's such an obvious example of a trigger for us as human beings, isn't it? Someone, because they can, especially on today's social media platform, on Facebook, on Twitter, someone will say something because they can, knowing that it's going to offend and horrify a lot of people. And they clearly don't care about it, right? So off we go, and we read something. It triggers a response in us. We might be aware of that, and we might be aware of our habitual tendency to react to that by either, hopefully not, responding to this person, typing out a tirade of your own. Hopefully it's not that. But even if it's not that, it's our own thoughts of cursing somebody, of condemning or damning someone, and calling them every name in the book, and stupid and an idiot for saying what they've just said. And it's not them that's suffering from that. It's us, isn't it? Because it's our own mind where we're harboring what the Course calls attack thoughts, and they are attack thoughts. They're lashing out at somebody. And of course, they don't ever even have to know that we're doing it. So we can be aware of that. That's being in our own way, isn't it? That's an obvious example. How about all of the times where we're not aware of that? Yes. How about all of the times where we're not consciously aware that we're blocking ourselves, that we're obscuring the truth of who we really are? We're adding difficulty and barriers and veils and layers to our experience that we don't need to add. So there are those moments where we're aware of being in our own way, and those where we're not aware of it. Why are we not aware of it? Well, because we don't even think about it. We don't think about it because we've all come into this life and received a healthy dose, or not so healthy dose, of conditioning from our parents, from schools, from our teachers, from everyone around us, from society. And their parents received it from their parents, who received it from their parents, on down to the point where, quite honestly, it's nobody's fault, which is really quite refreshing. In fact, here we are in this situation, but we don't have to place blame on it. We don't have to blame our parents for our lot in the world, because they were just doing what they knew how to do with the conditioning that they had, and their parents the same, and so on and so on and so on. And where we break that cycle is, well, ourselves, isn't it? It's our responsibility to do that right here, right now. And that is why all spirituality keeps coming back to mindfulness, isn't it? It's why it keeps talking, it being spirituality in general, keeps talking about mindful awareness, about the present moment. And it's not just something that sounds cool, it's the actual truth. It's where we practice, because that's all we've got. So anything that takes us out of the present moment is us getting in our own way. Quite literally, that's what it is. And hello, Isabel and John. Hi, how are you? Thank you guys for tuning in here. If you have questions or comments, feel welcome to leave them here. And same with everyone that's tuning in here. So thank you. I appreciate your being here. So anything that takes us out of the present moment is us getting in our own way. So what does that look like? Well, we think constantly about the past and the future, don't we? I mean, we go to town on ourselves, we berate ourselves, and we get in, and our ego voice just keeps telling us how we made a mistake yesterday, how I could have, should have, needed to have done something else, woulda, coulda, shoulda yesterday. And we think about the past, or we think about something that happened to us 20 years ago that offended us, that hurt us greatly. And 20 years later, boom, here comes a thought about something that maybe we thought we had put behind us. Apparently not, because here it is right now. And we're thinking about it in the past. And we also think about the future. We think about tomorrow's lunch. We think about things that are perhaps more pressing, like paying a bill, like a medical procedure that we might have to have, like an expense or something. There are all kinds of things that draw our attention away from the present moment. That is actually us getting in our own way. Why? Because the more we dwell on the future or the past, the less present we are, which makes total sense, doesn't it? We're out of the present if we're in the future or in the past. And the only moment that exists is right now. Right now, if you're thinking about tomorrow's lunch, right now is when you're thinking about it, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's not here. Same with yesterday. If you're thinking about a beautiful meal that you had last night, well, you're thinking about it right now. Last night's gone. It sounds obvious until we find ourselves stuck in the experience of spinning round and round and suffering and wondering just how can we, in fact, get out of that. And that's what spiritual practice is all about. And this is one of the things that's really, really important about that, is because in getting out of our own way, we allow. It's opening up and allowing your guides, God, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, could be Buddha, could be a human teacher, non-human teacher, whoever your guides are, or if you prefer the universe, source, spirit, whatever you call or name your guide or guides, your guiding energy, it's allowing that to run the show. And it's an admission, a beautiful admission, that we don't have all of the answers. Now, the ego wants us to believe, doesn't it, that we know everything, that we can handle it, we can make it, we can be rugged individualists. Yeah, we got this, right? All on our own. We don't need outside help. And that's what the ego tells us. But how's that working out for you? You know, when I think of all of the times in my life where I was in my own way, things weren't working out well. I was frustrated, right? I was clueless. I didn't know which direction to go. And there is a certain kind of angst and anxiety and desperation that creeps in when you're in your own way. Spirituality is getting out of that and allowing divine energy to run the show. And come to find out, that's really who you are. So getting out of your own way is clearing a veil, isn't it? It's clearing an obstacle. So what does this practice look like? Well, it depends on what speaks to you. Some people meditate a lot. Some people meditate very little, some not at all. There is prayer. There are various spiritual and religious traditions. There's yoga. And this could be something as simple as putting your feet in the pool out back, or taking a walk in the woods or on the beach or in the desert, wherever you are. Yeah. Spirituality can take many different forms, but if it's helping you in getting out of your own way, then it's a highly beneficial practice. And it's all about that awareness of knowing, oh, okay, I'm obstructing myself here. What needs to happen for me to get out of my own way? And quite literally, it is a moment to moment experience. It's a thing. That's why people like me, like any spiritual teacher, will tell you that it's not all rainbows and unicorns. I mean, blissful experiences come. They definitely do. Joyful experiences happen. And when we discover that we're in our own way, when we're thinking about something maybe in the future that we get frustrated about right now, it's actually a blessing. It doesn't mean that we're doing things wrong. Why do I say that? Because it's an opportunity for us to recognize what doesn't serve us and to release it, to let it go. What we consider difficult or painful experiences in this lifetime are all of these things coming up for release. So what do? We release them. First of all, we got to be aware of them, right? That's what mindfulness practice is like. That's why people pray, meditate, do yoga, read, do devotionals, read the workbook for students, read the text of A Course in Miracles, for example, so that we can be aware of the problem so it can be solved. Now, the ultimate problem, as we see in A Course in Miracles, is separation. So another way of looking at that is identifying with the ego, a separate sense of self, all right, rather than love, rather than God, yeah, rather than source, rather than divine, the divine. Yeah, so there are many ways that we appear to get in our own way. Ultimately, it's all solved by coming back to the present moment. That's why in spirituality, you hear this so often. Now, if it feels like you're hearing this for the 1000th time, good, right? Perhaps this time will be the time where you really, really, truly take it to heart and then begin to practice what you've learned. And that's my hope for all of you, is that that happens right now, today. It's a beautiful thing, and it is a tremendously empowering, beautiful, uplifting, and powerful choice to make. And you make it right now in the present. All right. So I know that some of you are on here commenting. Thank you all for joining me. Let's look at some of the comments. I love this part of the broadcast, by the way, where I get to interact with all of you. So Isabel, hi, how are you? All right. Thank you for tuning in here. Yeah, it is cool to find out that we're an experience, we're a reflection of all our experiences growing up, but we can change it. Yeah, thank you for that comment. Yeah. So I'll come back and do this later, but I love that comment more than once. You can only put one love heart in a Facebook feed, but yeah, thank you for saying that. That's the power of all of this. What we're talking about here is we can do this right now. We can decide to change it. And really, it's a choice for love over a choice for fear. That's the choice that we have to make. It's the choice, love or fear. And when we choose love, we begin to have a completely different experience, a qualitatively different experience, quantum leaps in joy in our own consciousness, in forgiveness. We become a vastly, vastly different person, big time. Yeah, yeah, with a lot of energy. Why the energy of God goes with us? Because we're tapping in. That and come to find out, it's not external at all. It's what we are and always have been. So I love that. Yeah. All right. So Isabella, I'm glad I don't have kids at this moment in my life. All righty. Yeah. Yeah. And this is an interesting comment here about inculcation. Yes, that's the word that comes up to me, is drilling certain values and drilling certain mores into us as kids. And this, yeah, so Isabel, this comment has to do with school systems, which definitely are an instrument of that. Yeah, I've experienced that. And, actually, it's very interesting because I do have two children. I have teenagers, and my oldest son is 18. He's getting ready to go to university at the University of Arizona. And I'm in Phoenix, so that's in Tucson, just a couple hours down the road here. And it's been a really interesting experience being a parent because you realize actually how conditioned you really are as the parent. As a father, I've recognized a lot how I was raised by my mother, my father, my grandparents, all of those folks in a different generation at a different time. I mean, I grew up in the 1970s, which we all know is now we're in a completely different time, completely different. I mean, we still had telephones that plugged into the wall and the cord was about that long. So if we wanted to have a 3-hour conversation with somebody, we stayed in that place for 3 hours and we all did it gladly, right? 4 channels of television. I mean, yeah, we even had a black and white TV at one point. So we've come a long way. And, as a parent, it's been very interesting to me to realize, okay, what worked in my own upbringing that I wish to replicate? And there's been plenty of that that's been good. And what do I want to not instill in them? And you realize, you go through, you make all kinds of mistakes based on your own conditioning. So it really is something that as human beings is a powerful force that shapes how we're going to experience things. However, the point of all of this is if we discover that something's painful for us, we have the opportunity to change it right now. We have the opportunity to change all of that right now with the practice of spirituality in whatever form that takes. Oh, yeah. And repetition is powerful. Well, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I often, as a teacher, feel like I'm repeating myself. And you know what? I am. It's beautiful. Why? Because as adult learners, I mean, think of how often you need to hear something before it really, really sits with you. Now, we don't always get things the first time either, which is why Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, I mean, in a couple of different places, that I'm stating, he basically says, I'm saying the same thing over and over again in different ways so that maybe this way of presentation is going to resonate. Maybe this grabs you on a certain day. So the workbook, I mean, there's a reason why there are 365 lessons in the workbook, and it's designed to cover a year or more. And on this live stream is going to be a lot more than that. You know, we need to hear it over and over again, don't we, until it sinks in. So yeah, it's beautiful. And if it sinks in today with this particular message, then I'm honored to be the one bringing that message. Because really, I'm you know, I'm just like any other teacher or any person talking about spirituality. Is really what we are is we're conduits for that divine energy. It's not really me that's doing the talking here. Yeah, it's the Holy Spirit that's doing the talking. It's the divine energy that's doing the talking. And what this body is, and this is straight from A Course in Miracles, is a communication tool. That's what it is, right? It is a communication device by which we may reach other people. Yeah. And the internet is a communication device by which we may reach other people. And it's astoundingly beautiful because we can do it instantaneously worldwide, and I love it. All right, so with that, thank you all for tuning in, and Isabel and others, thank you for tuning in today, and for all of the comments and questions. I really appreciate this, and I will get to, if you've commented here on this live stream, thank you. I will get to it momentarily here after the live ends. And again, this is daily, so feel welcome to check the show guide at the beginning of the comments for EWN on their Facebook page. Every day they post a show guide of the day's programming, and the time of this show does vary a little bit, so check that. And tomorrow we'll be right back with lesson 86 in the workbook for students, and you'll discover tomorrow that we're talking about the same thing. Oh, that we talked about today, just in slightly different words. So yeah, life is like that. And the quicker we make the decision to choose love all the time, the easier we find that experience. And this may really resonate with you because you may be in a place where you've chosen love repeatedly, and you would know then that your view of the world, your view of other people, your view of yourself is in fact totally different. All right, so thank you for joining me here today, and thank you for all the comments.